So we're here with David Johnston from Shannons Auctions. He's going to show us around the spring auction. Is that what it is?
Yes, it is, yeah. Let's have a wander around. We get a little bit of everything. Late model, high-end stuff, older stuff, a little bit of European, a little bit of American, lots of Australian, including late model Australian stuff that's collectible. Most of what we sell is rare or in some way special, whether that be because there's not very many of them around anymore, because it's got a particular history, because it's got very, very low mileage, but it's not a particularly special car. But pretty much everything that we sell here has a story. So, like the HSV Manaro, this car is being sold by its original purchaser, who had it for just a handful of days before he started modifying it. And with just a few kilometres on it, took it down to Harrop and had a blower fitted, and it's still got it. So he's now moving this one on because he's got various other cars in his HSV collection.
And you were saying something like this might go for about 80 grand now?
Could go for anywhere around that money, could go for more. Coupe 4 is very, very rare car, so in the current market, which is very enthusiastic for late model HSVs at this particular moment, it'll be interesting to see what the market thinks about it.
So for those who don't know, these cars are actually all-wheel drive, which is pretty rare in a Commodore.
I don't think they got these in the States at all, did they?
No, not the all-wheel drive version. I don't think the driveline's overly strong, do you know what I mean?
No, it's not, it's not, and so much so that you couldn't get one in a manual. You only get automatics.
Automatic only.
Because GM, period, didn't make a manual four-wheel drive gearbox that would bolt up to an LS.
It's still a good looking car. They really hit the mark on this model. Now behind me is something a bit older. Very original. VC HDT.
Yeah, original country car, this one. Unrestored, as you can see, with plenty of stone chips and wear and tear. But got a very legitimate history. Been around a long time, never been apart. All its original parts still on it. Was still in regular driving use until the gentleman drove it down from country Victoria to us here. He's just not using it very much anymore, so it's moving on.
Yeah, you don't see many in this model so much. Everyone goes after the VLs or the VKs. Or...
Yeah, look, the Blue Meanies and the Walkinshaws and stuff like that certainly steal the limelight, but these earlier HDT cars are certainly coming up in popularity. They've always been popular, but they've always been a lesser price point than the later stuff. But they are very iconic. They've got the Ermischer rims and the flares, and they're very flamboyant from that perspective. Unfortunately, power-wise, they're fairly casual.
Yeah, they are. So what's the buying range on this one, David?
Oh, look, on something like this could be anything north of $40,000, but it could easily break 100. Yeah. It really does come down to who wants to fight for it on the night.
Yeah, true, true.
Our auction's coming up, and it's certainly going to be a lot of bidding activity. And we might get 5 or 6 people who are all reaching as deep as they can.
Yeah, yep.
To secure something like this, because you don't get originality like this very often.
Absolutely.
Most of them have been resprayed, or who knows what story they've had, because they were always just driver cars.
They were. People just had to use these as daily drivers, didn't they?
That's right. Yeah.
Now behind you, this Torana you were saying earlier has a bit of history.
Yes, this one's pretty special in that it was originally produced and ordered specially for GMH executive Paul Berenger as his personal vehicle.
So this is an SLR 5000?
This is an SLR 5000, manual, factory black with black interior. And,
looks like it's in fairly good condition too. Yeah,
it certainly is. The current owner has owned it since the car was only about 5 or 6 months old when he purchased it from Paul Berenger. And he had it as daily transport for a long time, traded in his XU1 Torana to get it, of all things, and actually had it delivered to his house while he was living in Papua New Guinea.
Okay.
And then he's owned it ever since, and done a few bits and pieces to it, did a cosmetic restoration on it in the late 90s, but has otherwise just kept driving it around ever since.
So it's not all just Aussie muscle cars here. We've got a few Japanese cars.
Yeah, we've got a little bit of JDM stuff, a little bit of Australian JDM stuff, or ADM, or whatever you want to call it these days. We've got this little RX-7 over here. This is a one-owner car, as in we're selling it for the person who bought it brand new. It's pretty tidy, it's pretty clean. You know, not a super rare car in its own right, but to find an original manual car in this sort of orientation.
Sunroof.
It has had some paintwork over the years, but all original condition like this is very, very rare to see. I mean, like, it's not an expensive car. It's a $15,000 to $20,000 car. Yeah, you would probably know yourself that trying to get yourself into an RX-7 that's not a complete basket case is pretty hard.
That's really not much money in the grand scheme of what car modifications cost these days. When I was a P-plater, no one wanted these cars. They all wanted the RX-3s, RX-2s.
That's it.
Well,
I remember one of my good friends selling his Series 3, immaculate car for $3,000.
Yeah, you used to see a lot of women driving these.
Well, it was the current owner is a lady, and it was her daily transport for quite some time.
I noticed these Kombis, they're worth a stack of coin now, aren't they?
Look, they can be, and look, everybody sort of goes, oh yeah, it's a Kombi. The interesting thing about Kombis is the detail.
Yep.
This is a pretty early car. It's a split screen, a Samba, 21 window. It's not a super early car, it's a 64. It's the really early ones that bring the top dollars. That being said, you know, this is still up around $100,000. But essentially it's had a pretty high level restoration several years ago, little use, and is now really a collector piece. But as I say with Kombis, the more windows, the more money.
I've heard that.
Yeah, pretty much. You only get two more. 21 windows, nearly the top of the tree. We did sell a 23 window a few years back for a bit over 200K.
What's the deal with this one?
Well, this isn't a genuine Australian Defence Force, ex-Australian Defence Force 110 troop carrier, still with all its ADF equipment in place. These were built specifically for the Australian Defence Force with uprated engines and gearboxes and all of the hardcore accessories and all that sort of stuff. And after they were only a couple of years old, the Australian Defence Force sell them off, as they still do with their current fleet. This one is in very good condition. It's only got 40-something thousand kilometres on it from new, but it also comes complete with the matching accompaniment of the trailer that goes with it.
So it can be legally registered, this?
Yeah, it's registered at the moment. Yeah, registered at the moment. Yeah, absolutely.
And one car I spotted earlier was this BMW M6, David. I've got a bit of a soft spot for these things.
Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah, we do get quite a few BMWs through in this period, a lot of E30s and that sort of stuff, M5s, M6s, they're very popular.
These were a pretty fast machine back in the day.
That's it. The owner of this particular car has a lot of racing history and he's got an extensive BMW collection. It's got a couple of E30 M3s and bits and pieces like that.
Everyone wants the E30. Nice car, but I think they're a bit like a VL Turbo. They're worth more. They sell for more than what they're really worth. People
are wanting $100,000 for them now.
A bit ridiculous.
And, they're nice, they're cool, I just don't quite see it.
I think it's just because they look cool.
I'd rather a 325 manual or something like that myself.
Yeah, I know what you mean. A good example down there, I noticed there's a GT.
Yeah,
that orange one.
Yep, Vermilion Fire, black interior XY GT. Not a Phase 3, just a GT.
Is it Wild Violet, is that what you call the colour?
The XW.
And that's a replica and you can just see the price difference.
Correct, yeah. Less than half. Less than half. But everything's got a story. The deeper you look, you can always find a history. Even cars like this Ferrari that you're looking at the moment, that's had, been imported and sat around for a long, long time before finally being recommissioned for the road. Yeah, manual 4-seater. Yep. I always like the look of these for some reason. What engine's in this one? I can't even remember. Let's have a look up here. From memory, I think it's 4 litre V12. Oh yeah, 4.8 litre V12. 4.8 litre V12. 325 kilowatts. There's a fair bit of grunt back then. 83, absolutely. Yeah. Now this R32 isn't in the current auction, David, but these are certainly very popular these days. I think because the United States can now drive these, it's certainly pushed the price of them up, hasn't it? Absolutely, yes. Look, this one's in our November auction, which is coming up. We actually had 3 Australian delivered R32 GTRs in our last auction here at Heatherton. but this one will be coming up in November. Again, Australian delivered, very clean, very honest, all original. You know, I think this one's got a catback on it, and that's about it. Other than that, a very well presented car. The market has boomed certainly for the ADM cars, but 32 GTRs in general, since, as you say, America could import them and start driving them again. 34s have again gone through the roof as well.
I remember not that long ago, you could buy a pretty rough one of these for Australian, $15,000.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. One of my friends bought one, I think, for about 18 grand, about 15 years ago. Dux Cobra. There's Cobras and there's Cobras. Dux is one of the good UK built cars. This is another one, second owner from new. Original owner had it built for him as Australian in the UK and imported it himself. Funnily enough, the Caterham was exactly the same. Australian owner had it built for him in the UK and imported it himself. This one's set up as a very strong road car with lots of usability. It's drivable. You see a lot of Cobras that are built as cruisers, and you see a lot of Cobras that are built as bruisers.
Yeah.
But you don't often see a balance in between. This one's nice in that it's still a manual.
Not over the top.
But it's got a small block Chevy in it.
Yeah.
So it's super reliable,
Yep.
super simple, just not very economical.
And what would an auction be without a Rolls? That's a convertible Rolls over there.
It is, in fact, yes. We've got a Rolls and a Bentley in this particular auction. This one's really clean. It's actually been shipped down from Queensland, from one of our clients up in Queensland. Long-term ownership, all that sort of thing. They really do. If you've never been in one, you've never actually driven one.
I've never driven one.
I actually drove one for the first time, only just recently, and they are a very different car to drive. Unlike anything else, the level of smoothness and comfort is very different. You think of your high-end Audi or your even a high-end Mercedes or something like that as being very comfortable and very smooth. This is definitely built around how comfortable can we possibly make you.
Dodge Charger?
Yes, Dodge Charger, factory big block. I think that, you know, when people talk about those three little words, I'm pretty sure they said factory big block. Yeah, cool car, rare in Australia.
That looks nice, though.
Turnkey cruiser.
The engine in that Charger is probably bigger than this whole car.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, the Gardnera is a Fiat 500 wagon.
Wagon?
So it's a Bambino wagon.
I can't say I've ever seen one.
Yeah, they're pretty uncommon. We've been fortunate enough to have a couple come through with the roof, with the fold-back roof, of course. Loads of character. Just don't be in a hurry.
I was in Italy about 5 years ago. I couldn't believe how many of these I saw.
Still around.
Yeah, still around.
Still around in regular circulation.
People are just using them as daily drivers. What's that one
I think
on the
that's
left?
cool.
That's different.
Because that's a Fiat 600. It's called the Multiplier, and it's a people mover. It actually relatively comfortably seats 6.
That's a cartoon car.
It is. It is somewhat ridiculous, but yeah,
It's seat 6.
Seat 6. Yeah. And if you've never been near one of these things before, the doors open funny.
Suicide?
Because you got suicide door in the front,
Yeah.
but normal door in the back.
Let's have a look in there. They're like chairs you'd find in a school classroom.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's cool as.
Pretty basic. But,
There can't be too many of these in Australia.
This is the only one I've ever seen. But they certainly, it certainly is a striking looking car.
So what's the range on this one?
On this particular one, look, they're relatively cheap cars, but it's still going to be 50 plus.
Yeah, okay.
57 Cadillac convertible, like what an iconic looking car. Right-hand drive. The owner has driven it once. Owned it for about 10 years, driven it once. Bought it so he could drive, so that he could do his daughter's wedding.
I love the interior.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's like a fancy hotel. That's what it looks like.
It does
inside.
look a bit like that, doesn't it?
Did he have it converted, the owner?
No, it was converted before the current owner. The gentleman who brought it into the country had it converted locally.
All right, David, so this auction is on this coming Monday?
Monday night, yeah, Monday night, 7 o'clock.
And if anyone wants to come down, they can?
Absolutely, all welcome. Plenty of seating. I'd do something about the weather, but unfortunately I'm not Jesus. But yes, certainly all welcome. We kick off at 7 o'clock sharp, runs until around about 10 o'clock at night. free admission, food trucks and all that sort of stuff outside. It's a good show even if you're not up for buying something.
Yeah, and how many of these auctions do you run a year?
We run 5 a year here in Melbourne, we run 4 in Sydney,
4 in Sydney.
As well as we normally chuck in another one here and there as well. Like we're doing one at Motor Classico with just heritage number plates as well.
Yeah,
so.
and you were saying earlier, you guys sell quite a few number plates at the auctions too. Yeah.
We sell a lot of heritage number plates. Heritage number plate is a massive market, big growth area. Our number plate auction that we're doing at Motor Classico is over 30 heritage number plates, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 digits. So it's certainly a big market and strong investment at the moment. Better than houses, that's for sure.
Look, the number plates, yeah, I see the money in them, but it's not my thing.
No, not mine either.
Cars are my thing. Just before we go, yeah, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, the Futura. Look, a lot of people will see this and think it's a Sprint.
Yeah, that's what I thought, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it is actually a Futura. So this is the most confused car that I've ever seen because people call it a Sprint, yet it has both Falcon and Futura badges. But it is a factory 260 V8, so the smallest of the Windsors. Cool American cruiser, unique body style, and I think they only made this body style for 2 years. And yeah, you don't see them very often out here.
Yeah, they're a fairly small car, really.
Yeah. This is a compact in America.
All right, David, well, thanks for showing us around.
No worries, anytime.
If you want to come down, yeah, Monday night.